are more majestic than mountain goats. Over the past 30 years, the state has worked hard to restore the mountain goat population.
But now they're relocating them to places they probably never roamed before. And the result, some people say, is trouble for the environment. Here's Fox 13 News investigative reporter Nate Carlisle.
Well, the mountain goats are moving across this talus slope from this lower ridge up to Mount Peel.
Yeah, I see them. They're on the ridge, about to go over.
Here's a video a lot like we were seeing from a distance that day. We made it up to 11,000 feet and never got close to the mountain goats. But Tosh Black got to see them with his own eyes.
So we were making our way up beautiful Mount Peel and kind of looked over kind of in the basin, actually behind right over here. And we saw about, I'm going to say about 7 to 12 of them. I kind of anticipated to see the goats, but it was always a neat surprise to see them.
The LaSalles are the mountains Moab's visitors see when they look to the east. These mountains have plants found nowhere else in the world, and people like Mark Coles-Ritchie say the goats are a threat to the mountain's ecosystem.
The mountain goats are not native to this landscape.
Mark Coles-Ritchie is the Utah Public Lands Manager for the nonprofit group Grand Canyon Trust.
Mountain goats, they eat the vegetation in these alpine areas of the LaSalle Mountains. They dig up the plants, and then they dig into the soil, creating places where they can lay. The plants that we're particularly concerned about, the foremost is the LaSalle daisy, which is endemic to the LaSalle Mountains. It grows nowhere else in the world.
Bighorn sheep were spotted in the LaSalles as recently as 1954. But since the wild sheep are susceptible to disease, the state looked for a similar animal.
We succeeded in capturing 21 goats, both billies and nannies.
In 2013, the State Division of Wildlife Resources captured mountain goats in the high elevations of southwest Utah.
Moving those to the LaSalle Mountains
to start a breeding population.
Our most recent population estimate is somewhere between 85 and 100.
The State Division of Wildlife Resources wants that population to grow to 200. We believe that a non-native species like mountain goats should not be here.
Riley Peck is the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources coordinator over what's called the once-in-a-lifetime species. That's a reference to how hard it is to win a permit to hunt the mountain goats. Peck says hunting fees have brought little revenue to the state and are not the reason the big game was introduced into the LaSalles.
Mountain goats are one of those species that bring intrinsic value to an area. People like looking at them.
The mountain goat range in the LaSalles sits on a national forest and a designated research area. In 2016, the Grand Canyon Trust was among the plaintiffs who sought to remove the goats by suing the U.S. Forest Service. They felt the agency was not managing the habitat.
We think the Forest Service does have the authority to decide that mountain goats should not be here.
A federal judge dismissed the lawsuit because a joint study between the Forest Service and the state to determine how the goats were impacting native plants hadn't been finished yet. Now, according to the Forest Service and Peck, most of that study is complete, although the results have not yet been published.
Some of those early results show that under certain circumstances in certain areas, mountain goats may have an impact on some of these plants. That study has given us some confidence, and we believe that there are not any long-term negative impacts of having goats on the mountain.
Meanwhile, the state is considering introducing mountain goats into a new spot in northern Utah, depending on what sensitive plants they find in Logan Canyon.
This is not a decision that has been made yet.
Absolutely, I love the goats.
Back in the LaSalles, nature lovers like Black feel the conflict.
Have a great day. We definitely want to protect this very fragile habitat because it is very fragile up here. So it does concern me a little bit about the goats. They're awesome to see, but at the same time, we want to definitely protect our fragile, ecosystem.
In the LaSalle Mountains, Nate Carlisle, Fox 13 News, Utah.
It is a